challenge, my entire effort to get all three of you gentlemen together is to understand what is similar and what is dissimilar. All these four countries are together in a neighborhood, but they have their own unique experiences when these protests happen. So I'll straight away go to Dr. Aruna. So good to see you, sir. How are Delhi and Colombo protests different or similar?
Thank you for having me, first of all. I think I'll start off by just giving a very short synopsis of what happened in Colombo. It's been now 4 or 5 years past. What happened in Colombo was that a political party, the United National Party, sparked off the protest. It was the youth wing of the UNP that actually had the demonstrations to start off with. And that turned into a mass demonstration that was at the Galle Face, right next to the president's office and the president's house at that time. That went on for like 2 or 3 months. Ranil Wickremesinghe was then sworn in as the prime minister, and President Gotabaya had to leave the country, actually. And then what happened was that Ranil Wickremesinghe came and very surgically removed the protesters. However, by this time, the narrative has been built up by non-UNP militant groups. In fact, it was another militant group, radical break-off from the Charaka Vimukti Peramuna, who took over the protest midway, and they carried it out. And the narrative was started to emerge, where the whole country was with the protesters. And when it came to so Ranil Wickremesinghe managed to sell the soul. So, for example, I remember Manmohan Singh selling the gold way back, and Ranil Wickremesinghe sold the soul to the IMF, and we managed to come out of our issues in 2025. However, by that time, the narrative was very strong, and in the election. So basically, you had to understand that even though Gotabaya had to leave the country, we are also a strong democracy. So the actual change of the government took place in an election, which was in November 2025. So with that election, the NPP came in. So it was very surprising because the narrative was taken over by what we call the Palatugamis, the radical group of the NPP. But finally, the NPP, which was a group of from the radical JVP as well as other groups of professionals, the people who really were sick of what was going on in terms of corruption, all of that came together and formed this party, and they got a massive majority in the parliament in December that year, which was never had. It was the largest majority up to now. So it was a democratically elected government that came in. So we are also, when you talked about the maturity in politics, I think we are similar. We are very similar. Even though there were protests, the protests came into a situation where there was a change in the leadership, but not of the government, and then the government changed in a democratic election. Okay. So that is how it happened.
Okay. Let me take opening comments from Mr. Koirala. Sir, where does the similarity ends? What makes this entire protest different from what Nepal witnessed? I want that, we got the perspective from Dr. Aruna from Colombo. Please give us your perspective from Kathmandu.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I think one of the key difference that I see between Gen Z protests in India and Nepal is that in India, the protest is lasting for several days. In our case, it was just one day that actually triggered, because the 19 youths were, they were killed on the first day of the protest, and on the second day, there was a mass outrage among the people at the public level, because people were so frustrated with the systemic corruption, lack of accountability on the part of the government, and there were demands. These youths were making demands, but the government was not ready to listen to them. So when the social media was banned, particularly the Facebook, And people started feeling that their liberty was taken away, their freedom of expression, the rights to express their ideas, opinion were taken away, and that triggered the Gen Z protests in Kathmandu. And so, like, what happened was it was very peaceful protests at the beginning. Now it seems there were some youths who were sort of encouraging a small group of youths to actually breach the prohibitory zone and show their strong presence so that government would listen. And at that time, there was some casualty, and that actually led to the protest. And what I see is, you were mentioning that India is a mature democracy. Of course, we are also mature
Well,
democracy, although
everyone is a mature democracy. I'm not. It's
no,
not to say that I'm trying to undermine Nepal or Sri Lanka or Bangladesh. I'm saying that India has had experiences like even emergency, but could come out of it. When I say mature
yeah,
democracy, I wanted to locate. Okay, let me rephrase it.
yeah, sure.
Let,
Thank you.
let me rephrase it. No, no, let me rephrase it. Any democracy will have a problem if it doesn't have a peaceful transfer of power. It's a problem. Any democracy will have a big problem if it does not have a lot of valve system and the political and the social mobility is limited. In India, political mobility is there. That is why, you can fight elections and you can be somewhere. Look at Bihar, look at Uttar Pradesh, look at the elections in Tamil Nadu. The traditional parties are out and Vijay is the chief minister. So when you have faster political mobility, the system has the capacity to absorb. That was the point I was trying to make about my country, that really works like a valve. So people can have angst, but the electoral process is fair, and you can occupy a political office. That was the point I was trying to make.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. I got your point. But what I mean to say was, like, we had democracy restored in 1990. Although, of course, we had 10-year long, armed insurgency led by Maoist. Still, we had several round of election, and there were different leaders coming up. The people had a perception that these top three leaders, there were Shervadu Deuba and KP Oli and Prachanda, they were there for a long time. And that was this, actually created kind of frustration among people. Every time when there is government change, and there was sort of musical chair among these three people, three leaders. So that actually triggered the protest. So basically, yes, if you talk about this in India, Gen Z protests have a specific demand, like the exam paper leaks. And we had a Facebook ban was a triggering point. But
Okay.
although, of course, there was an accumulation of frustration over lack of accountability, frustration over systemic corruption, frustration over lack of employment opportunities to the youth. What I see in whole of South Asia is, like the youth population below 35 years, they consist more than 50-60%. But look at the leader, the people who are in the leadership, most of them, they are above 60. And youths are actually demanding their fair share of representation in the government. And I think that is the reason. And when the youth actually reach to the power, they can come up with the innovative ideas.
I think
They
that's
can
a very good point. The age is a very good point. A lot of people have told me that the age has to be factored. Let me take opening comments from Shoib. Shoib has a different point of view of Bangladesh. He never uses the word Gen Z. I think he will use the word cool if I'm not wrong. But anyway, you are free to say what you want, Shoib. I'm not going to dictate.
Kartikeya, thank you very much. First of all, my regards to the co-panelists. You see, this regime change conspiracy of the US deep state, it began with Sri Lanka, and then we fell victim of that two years ago, and now Nepal. And everywhere, what is happening, they want to destroy the younger generation, they meaning the Western countries. And my profound thanks to our friends in Sri Lanka that they have tackled the situation, because the vested interest group, they wanted to destroy the economy of Sri Lanka. They wanted to destroy the prospect of Sri Lanka. But the people of Sri Lanka finally stood in unison in foiling the conspiracy. And now Sri Lanka is in a growing economy. We are very proud of Sri Lanka being a very growing economy. They've overcome this conspiracy. That conspiracy we could not overcome. We are still suffering. Millions of people are unemployed in this country. Now, this regime change plot is now entering India. I can say they find an excuse. In every country, they find a common agenda, but if you look into the blueprint, playbook, it is all the same. They send the younger generations to the streets with the backpacks and chanting slogan, and then, but there is one difference between the agitation in India and the agitation in Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, although Jamaat-e-Islami and the Islamic radicals, they joined this movement. Actually, they were the driving force of the movement, but they did not expose their faith. They were pretending to be students. But in India, we can see there are students and there are political leaders. This is the difference in India, because actually in India it is impossible to actualize the regime change plot. America does not know the strength of India's democracy. I'm sure for the next several centuries, they cannot do the same conspiracy even in Sri Lanka. Impossible. And we Bangladeshis, if we succeed finally in overcoming this challenge, they cannot do it with us. One more important thing, Kartikeya, I'd like to share with you, that this same deep state, were using their planted people in Dhaka to completely destroy relations with India.